The mind is all. The universe is mental. The ultimate guide to manifestation and self-actualization. By Tim D Kelley. 2019. The mind is all and the universe is mental, but why is it that emotions and thoughts influence more of reality than our actions do? By reading completely to the end of this book you'll find out the answer to this perceivably incomprehensible paradox. Chapter 1. Limitless Being of Light. We are all living, breathing, thinking, feeling and doing beings. But, are we really living to our highest potential? Yeah, some moments we may be feeling like we are living our best lives. The best version of selves. But then again, there are other days where we are not. That is because we are constantly changing. The versions of what we call self and reality are constantly changing. The choices of who we want to be is constantly changing. In this book, you will be introduced to the possibility of the highest aspects of change. In this book we will learn to become the best aspect of what we choose to be and bring that into existence. Who are we? What are we? First of all, before we begin, we must learn what we truly are and what reality truly is. Ask yourself, beyond my head, arms, legs, brain and body, who am I? Beyond the physical things in the universe, what really exists? What we are is the energetic essence of that which we call God, higher power, source essence. No matter what religious spiritual system you ascribe to, that is our highest version. Who and what we really are, right now, is beyond flesh and blood and materiality. We are beings of light. Light is our highest vibration. It is our oneness with Source. The rest of what we experience is based on our perception of how we view Source lowered into physicality, and it is what we call the material world. But, what you may not know is that the material world is not really material at all. The material world is made up of small particles, which are vibrating at a certain frequency reflecting light. It is a projection of how we see ourselves. How we define ourselves as light. Your outer physical world is a projection of how you define your light. And, how you define your light is based on your internal descriptions and associations. That means, what we experience as the reality of ourselves is the reality in which we experience what we call God, higher power, source, all possibilities, the all source of light. In other words, as you think it is, so shall it be. As you think about who you are and what the world around you is, or should be, then through our thinking and agreeing, the world becomes. When we experience this world through that lens, it is what we call reality. Language helps us put descriptions to this light. Sometimes language is why we perceive that we are not living our life's truest reality. You see, language is how we give meaning to what we are experiencing. We experience ourselves as defined light first, and then from that experience we project it outwardly through language and we become that definition. Language exists because of our thinking. Language is the verbal generalization of light and experience of that light. The process of thinking is an internal reflection of what we choose reality, light, to be. And, the current reality you are experiencing is just one possibility of the light of God that you choose to describe yourself as and ultimately attune to, and exist within. This is all based on how you describe your light. That means, all the good and bad things you experience are caused by your thinking. Who you are and who you become is your thoughts and how you perceive your thoughts. Thinking is the second step in the lowering of vibration of your light. Before we even see our light we must perceive it through awareness, which then leads to thinking. And then, from thinking thoughts, light experiencing light, we formulate ideas and generalizations through the use of language about what this light ultimately we will become as we will experience it. Then the last part is the manifestation or the lowered expression of light to a form in which we can experience it objectively, with and through the body. The experience of light in the formation of physicality. The experience of thought as language describes for us to experience. Experience is then the language at which you use to describe reality. It is also how we choose to experience light as physicality. The biggest limitation of who you are now is your thoughts. Your thoughts are expressions of your inner light. Thoughts themselves are made up of information we receive about the grand world around us. What we perceive as self is a generalized version of light, as information in the form of language, feelings and actions. Likewise, our outer environment gets processed into the mind through language, which is a generalized aspect of the modalities of perception. Information comes to the brain through our awareness. The brain is connected to our awareness through 5 main modalities which we call perception. When we become aware of this information, thoughts are formed in the mind based on language. Language is basically human, animalistic noises along with symbols, formulated together to present meaning of the information we are receiving from our environment. It is a generalized version of all the information we are perceiving through awareness. So when we ask ourselves, what are thoughts? We are using a sound and image to represent the meaning of this information to the mind, which allows us to act and react in the environment called behavior. Self is an expression of awareness, thought and behavior. Every word has a correlated meaning, which is a general statement or symbol for what we are perceiving and experiencing. The meanings of words are different to each person based on past experiences, beliefs and values. There are over thousands of languages that we use to communicate with others and describe our individual and collective experience of what we call reality. So, these words and their meanings are basically generalized information about the bigger picture. We don't actually live in reality, because it is made up of so much information our mind must generalize it through language. This information is generalized through our sensory impulses as representations through the 25 senses, but we know them as the major 5 sense organs. These are visual, sight and seeing, visual images, auditory, sounds and hearing, kinesthetic, touch and feeling, olfactory, smell and smelling, and gustatory, taste and tasting. These are called modalities of perception. Images are the way most people process the physical reality, information presented to sight. This is because one single image holds more information which can be presented and understood by the brain than the other senses. Images and words essentially, along with sounds, feeling, taste and smell comes together to generate the movie in the mind, which represents individual pieces of context, which we use to shape, understand and live in reality. This happens unconsciously, meaning it happens below our general awareness or without our conscious awareness. The brain and awareness both work simultaneously to allow us to interpret and act and react within this world. The processing of language and understanding the context of the information is ultimately what makes up the majority of our conscious experience, which allows us to make sense of, i.e., interpret, ourselves and the world. It is the majority of our existence. The key takeaway here is that, what happens unconsciously, or what happens below our awareness, holds more power over our individual life experience than our conscious awareness of it. More on this in further chapters of this book. The reticular activating system. The reticular activating system is known as the attention center of the brain. It is the key to turning on the functions of our brain. The best way to understand this is this: the brain is basically the physical vehicle while your attention and focus, i.e., awareness, is the key to starting the vehicle. If you are already familiar with the sciences of spirituality and manifestation, you have probably already heard of the term, the body is a vehicle transporting your soul. This is the science of the transportation and experience of the journey of the soul to the destined end. We are physically brain and body, but we are also mind, attention, focus and awareness. So we are both physical as well as experiential. Our awareness, attention and focus is what drives the brain and body. The science expressed in this book is this: whatever you focus your awareness and attention on the most, your brain and body will act and react to.